value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sheryl McCumsey, founder of Pesticide Free Alberta. She lives now on the BC coast, but that doesn't mean you're not interested in what's happening in Alberta, BC, and across the country. Welcome back to the show, Sheryl.
Hello, Jim.
Sheryl, one of the things that you're very concerned about is how secret Canada is about the release of new pesticides, your ability to take a look at what's in them, what you might be exposed to. Now, the government will say it's not secret, but what's their procedure right now if you want to find out what kind of pesticides are being proposed that they might want to spray on our food, land, and water?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, if you want to look at the actual studies that are used to register a pesticide that's submitted by the industry that sells the product, you have to fly to Ottawa. You have to fly to Ottawa. Now, right now with COVID, you probably aren't going to fly to Ottawa if you can, just afford to fly down there on a whim kind of thing. You have to fly down to Ottawa to go to their library, and you have to have an affidavit in hand in order to get into that library. And then you're not allowed to make copies of anything. You can take a piece of paper and a pencil in there. You're not allowed to make copies of anything. You can't take your phone in there, etc. So if you even have something you want to write to object to what you're seeing, what you're reading, it's going to be pretty hard to publish that because you're not going to have any peer review of that paper because you don't have any data that you can share because it's kept in that library and nobody can make copies of it. I think that's a little weird. That's certainly not exactly what I'd call transparent, and I don't think you have informed consent when people are not really informed, and they can't be informed in this case.
Why the government secrecy?
Well, we hear about proprietary issues, but it's kind of gone too far, if you ask me, because if we're putting something into the environment that's getting into our air, our water, our food, into all kinds of products that we're being exposed to, how can you expect people not to want to see how you've decided that something is safe? Safe is kind of like it's an objective word too, because what is safe? Like, how much of it and how many different things are we looking at all at the same time? So proprietary issues are what they bring up. But I really think it's gotten to the point where that's not acceptable anymore. I mean, we have a list of ingredients on a lot of cosmetics, and I don't even think people often look at them, but one particular thing that comes to mind for me is dry shampoo. If you actually look at the list of ingredients for dry shampoo, it's basically lighter fluid. I think a lot of people would say, I don't want to spray lighter fluid on my head, but at least you have a list of ingredients. With pesticides on the label, you only know of one ingredient that's in there. You don't know all the other additives that are in there. That's also considered proprietary. That's put in your food. So to me, I have an issue with that. I don't give my consent, and I think a lot of people should say these words, I do not consent, because we haven't. How we consented to this? We don't even know most of the time what's going on. And even if we want to know, we have to skip through a bunch of hoops to find out.
Now, former Premier Bill Vander Zalm once filed a Freedom of Information request to find out if chemtrails actually have chemicals and stuff, and he got back pages and pages of blacked out copy, and then the government says, trust us, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I would wonder about that, like what's been blanked out. I've had FOIPs too, like that when I've asked for pesticide abuse reports, and some of it is to protect people's privacy, their names and so on. But I think often it just this privacy stuff is actually not really working for the public in maybe all of the right ways, because it's gone so far that now we don't know truly what is going on. If you can't get a list of ingredients of things that are actually sprayed on your food, and you can't see the studies that are used to register it without going to Ottawa, and right now you can't do that. And who knows? I suspect this could go on for a while as we're seeing more serious concerns with these new variants that are showing up. So this could go on for another year or two, and in that time, what is going to go on the market that we're not going to have opportunity to see? So I've written a letter to the PMRA saying I object to this, that we're not allowed to see this, and then also the Auditor General has done reports on the PMRA listing shortcomings and stuff, and they say, yeah, sure, we agree, we're gonna fix these things, but are they fixing them? Well, it's kind of a big question mark right now. The chemical that Edmonton was using, in particular chlorpyrifos for mosquito control, they were misusing that. They were using it. They were applying it in parks against label instructions. They were applying it well within city limits when they're supposed to use it in outlying areas of the city. And apparently, from all the data that we can find, Edmonton was the only place in Canada that was using it for a long time, actually. And apparently, chlorpyrifos is being registered for mosquito control. Now, how did they decide that that's acceptable when there's, in the U.S., even the new administration there is relooking at this issue because this chemical is so harmful, especially to children. And it doesn't really go away. That's the other thing. Pesticides, we're kind of told they break down and we go, oh, that's great, just like fairy dust. But they don't really go away. They persist for years. This is the reason why some lawsuits are successful. But are we looking at the breakdown products of all pesticides? How are we going to know whether that's happening, even if we're told that that's being done? And apparently it's not really being done. So I don't know. The more you look, the more you feel like you're living in the twilight zone, because what we're told that's happening and what's actually going on, they don't seem to match very well.
Well, there's a suspicion pro athletes tend to get Lou Gehrig's disease more often than other people because of all the harsh chemicals they use to make all the playing fields so nice and green. Yeah,
there's a lot of harm, I think, that comes out of this. I'm familiar with pesticides, but when you start looking, you start realizing that there's other areas that this carries over into: cosmetics, household products, even pharmaceuticals, and so on. And so it takes a lot after something is allowed in Canada for it to be removed. It takes a lot. Asbestos is a good example of how we were told, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Now if you have asbestos in your house, wow, it's quite a lot you have to go through to get that out of your house. It's going to cost you a lot of money. But for a long time we were told, don't worry, it's not a problem. So how do we decide then? How are we going to trust our government to be doing what they need to do when it seems like industry has all the say and all the control over what we see and what we hear, what we're allowed to know? How is that even democratic? I even question how that can be democratic. It seems like industry makes all the decisions, and it's not really doing well for a lot of Canadians when a lot of these products, we don't necessarily need them,
You had a scary story about dry hair shampoo in Calgary.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the fact that it is basically, if you look at the list of ingredients, we're talking about lighter fluid. If you look at government websites that, at least they were up in the past, they showed absorption rates through the skin. Certain areas of the body absorb through the skin faster. And we know people get medications given in creams, like for your joints, for example. Anti-inflammatories is a good example. So what you put on your head, in their words, you take into your body faster than if you ingest something, right? So that's a concern. But in Calgary, I mean, the dry shampoo is, it's a petrochemical, it's a flammable product. Apparently in Calgary, somebody blew their bathroom door off with one of these cans. So, I wouldn't want anybody in my family to be using that. I'm thinking there's probably something else we can do if we don't want to wash our hair every day than putting this stuff on our head. That's gotten a little concerning that these things are so widely available and everybody thinks because you can buy it, that automatically guarantees there's no concern with it. I'm finding the more I look, the more I feel like I don't want to use anything unless I've looked in it myself. And right now, how many people have that opportunity? Well, maybe some people have more opportunity to do that right now than before. But if you cannot even look at the data, period, because of the circumstances with COVID right now, then how can we call that a democratic and transparent system? I don't see how we can.
We'll have more with Sheryl McCumsey right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sheryl McCumsey. Sheryl, does the BC government still use an extraordinary amount of pesticides and herbicides on our forests?
Well, there has been a bit of a decline in the last, I believe the last year, but that's more to do with weather than to do with a desire to reduce pesticide use. And I truly suspect that that's going to continue as is. There is nothing coming in the works that says we're going to look at this and change it. It's kind of like the way the system's working right now. And there's a lot of opposition to it. I mean, Stop the Spray BC does a lot of work to show on how, it's really twisted ideas about even what a forest is. I mean, even today there was a guy telling me that aspen is a garbage tree. Well, how do you decide that a tree that moose depend on for, like, that's what they eat, is being garbage? I mean, this is what they eat. It's quite remarkable, that kind of mindset. So, they bulldoze, they spray them. They spray perfectly good berry bushes in forests. It's something that if we don't change it, I don't know how we're going to continue on as a species because we're impacting our pollinators. And there was I think I might have said this in another segment, how the BC government has said that the loss of pollinators is affecting our yields of crops, period. Point blank. So, what we're doing in forests, what we're doing on farming, what we're doing in our municipalities, we're spraying still for dandelions in a lot of places. Dandelions, you might not like the way they look, but if we lose the insects that are pollinating our food crops, and it's already affecting yield, even if you don't like dandelions, you have to give your head a scratch a little bit and think about, well, where is this going to lead? If you're removing insects that we need for our food system. That's just one part, but there's so many intricate parts of how ecosystems work. I mean, if you remove trees that are really good carbon sinks, that are filtering your water that are holding down the soil so that the soil doesn't erode and wash into streams and pollute streams, etc. I mean, these are ecosystems. And if you only fixate on one kind of tree or one kind of plant, you run into problems every single time. That's what this whole pesticide industry revolves around, is monocultures, growing one thing. And there's ways to have big farms where you integrate more than one kind of plant on that farm and do it in such a way, diversity on your farm is going to do a lot to prevent disease and insect infestation. And do we have the time to wait now with all the things that are going on in the world? I mean, in a way, this virus is due to our views and attitudes towards animal life, wildlife. I mean, this is where it came from. And if we don't change it, it's going to happen again and again. And, right now, if people are worried about their immune system, if they want a healthy immune system, do you want to put a whole load of toxins into your body and expect that you're going to have a healthy, good response to a disease? I mean, it's not rocket science, really.
If pesticides are used, say, on vegetable or fruit products, should those have to be listed on the label?
Well, it would be nice, but man, it would be shocking, I think, for people to see, how many pesticides might be on your food. But yeah, that would seem more just than expecting, we've really got a backward system where, organic farmers are required to, pay a fee to be licensed. And I'm glad that we have something, even though it's got its own flaws as well, that we have something that we can look at that kind of gives us some kind of an idea of what's going on with our food. But yeah, why a farmer knows they're spraying X, Y, Z, but you can imagine how complex that would be if a company is accessing a product from a variety of farmers. The thing is, if you had something like that, maybe that would actually start to have an impact on what's going on, because, I was even talking to a guy yesterday who's really involved in environment, and, he was talking about how at one point he felt quite depressed by all of this, right? And started getting involved in reporting on this because this is something he could do. And as we're talking about that, I'm kind of losing my train of thought about where I was going with this thought. But if you had a way of influencing the market so that, for example, we have a good example of that with oats that companies were saying, we don't want you to spray glyphosate and desiccate the oats with glyphosate. We want to be able to say on our product that it's glyphosate free. So we're starting to see that happen in a kind of reverse fashion, that people are saying that it's, they have glyphosate free, it's GMO free, it's organic. But really, it would be a lot easier, wouldn't it, to have a farmer just list all the pesticides they use and have to be responsible for what they're using to the consumer? Because there is no full disclosure. The thing is what I don't like about that, though, is that it kind of puts more stress on a farmer when really this goes back to the agrochemical companies and their way of marketing to farmers and how aggressive they are in that, and that I feel a lot of people have bought, this whole premise that we have to do these things, that we have to have neonics coated on our seeds for a variety of plants when, and we're seeing in other reports it doesn't show that it's made a damn bit of difference for yield. So, farmers paying for something that maybe doesn't even work. I don't know. But it would be nice. I would like to see all the pesticides listed on my salary, for example. Because I'd like to avoid them. Some of the ones that we know or we hear about might not be as bad as some of the ones you don't hear about. Like how many people have heard of chlorpyrifos? Not many people. But I'll tell you, it's pretty bad. It's pretty nasty stuff. You don't want that in your food.
And when people say, oh, well, that's a problem that hits somebody else. A friend of mine bought me some strawberries last year. I had a huge rash breakout. I go to the doctor and she said, you're the third person I've seen from eating those strawberries. They're covered in pesticides. You're probably now have a resistance or a sensitivity to the pesticides on strawberries. Don't eat them anymore.
Yeah.
And I used to love strawberries.
Yeah, well, I think that's how a lot of allergies do start for people, is that, you know, I mean, for me, I've kind of learned this the other way, that, you know, I was allergic to some foods that, celery was one of them, which seems probably strange to people, but, according to what I've found, a celery can have up to, it probably doesn't, it probably has like 10 or 12, but it can have up to 48 different pesticide residues on your celery. I mean, you look at celery, you go, really? There's the celery, and then there's like, how many other things are on that celery? It's like, wow, that's remarkable. So I had anaphylactic reactions if I ate celery. Like, I would have to go to the hospital. I'd have to have an EpiPen. That's how serious it was. And then many years later, I started eating organic celery, very slowly introducing it, and now I can eat it now. Now I can eat organic celery.
We'll have more with Sheryl McCumsey right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sheryl McCumsey. Sheryl, it may seem early to some people, but should we be thinking about what we want to order for our home organic gardens right now?
Oh, yeah. All the seed catalogs are out. And yep, I definitely would. And I'd try to look for some of the smaller companies that are out there as well, like to try to support, again, diversity is good, and every little seed company out there that we have is a good thing, so I wouldn't just go to all the big companies and get your seeds. I would, and consider there's a difference in seeds too. So, like, West Coast Seed Company is, you know, they're pretty, I don't know if I could say they're big, but they have, their catalog is in itself, informative. Like, it's really kind of interesting to learn about, these things. And when you look at the diversity of, like, potatoes and all of that that's in the world, we really see just a handful of things in the store. What you can grow in your garden, you can grow many varieties of tomatoes that you'll never see in the store. So, it's kind of fun. So I would definitely get into looking at getting seeds now. It's too bad, like a lot of, organizations that normally have what they call, you know, CD Sunday, CD Saturday, and a whole bunch of municipalities all over, are probably not going to happen. I don't know if people are going to try and figure out a way to do it another way. Like I know here where I am, people were actually leaving seeds on people's doorstep and trying to find a way to do a seed exchange that way. But definitely I would. And start looking at maybe farmers who are doing their, some farmers set it up, they'll have farm bonds or they'll have CSA, which is a way where you kind of decide you're going to buy so much product from the farmer. That's really great for the farmer because the farmer can plan a little earlier and a little easier if he knows he's got so many people buying his produce from, you know, June on till maybe October sometime. So it's a good thing to do. You know what you're going to be paying, you know what you're going to be getting, and you're going to get it fresh, and you're going to support a local farmer. So I'd be looking at that as well. I mean, I know that's happening already here where I am, and it's just January. It seems early, but it's really not to start planning this. And it's kind of fun. It's one of the positive things we can do, and very, very supportive in multiple ways, you know. So I would do that. I would also, I mean, as far as organizations are out there, people have the ability and the means, I would support some people who are trying to do some things to change these things. So there's, of course, Stop the Spray BC. They're trying to do something about stopping forestry spraying in BC, especially around the Prince George area. But also there is Safe Food Matters, which is run by a woman lawyer who's trying to, address glyphosate registration concerns. And then there's EcoJustice, who's also involved in some of this. So all of these organizations, we can support them. And then you can also make a little bit of noise with your MLA and your MP and even your councillor about the pesticides we're spraying and about the lack of transparency. And really interesting, in our own community here, a woman was talking about that there should be more input coming from people to government, and that's what democracy really is. That's really what it is. It shouldn't be run by big corporations, a lot of them which are not even Canadian owned, for God's sakes, and a lot of them aren't, and they are dictating to us how we're going to live. So we can do a lot of things right now.
Cheryl, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you, Jim.
My guest has been Sheryl McCumsey, founder of Pesticide Free Alberta. Do you have an email that people can send requests or information, inquiries to?
Yes, Pesticide Free, 4, Canada, @gmail.com. All one word.
If you have any questions for our guests or for Cheryl, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @TalkDigitalNet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.